we begin tonight with even more urgently breaking news. The Associated Press reporting within the last hour that President Obama has rejected all of the options given to him by his national security team regarding a new policy for the war in Afghanistan. The AP citing a senior administration official reporting again in the last hour that Mr. Obama is pushing his national security team to revise the options they've given him and to give him a new plan specifically focused on how and when U.S. troops could turn over responsibility to the Afghan government. This news comes after the president today held his 8th meeting with his national security staff on the way forward in Afghanistan. White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs confirmed this week that President Obama was considering 4 options on Afghanistan. As for what those options are, unnamed officials speaking to the New York Times said the president was considering sending 20 to 25,000 more troops, or another plan to send 30,000 more troops, or still another plan to send roughly 40,000 more, or, according to the Times, there was a mysterious 4th option that wasn't defined, at least as of yet, by the number of troops that would be sent. But again, the breaking news tonight, according to the Associated Press, is that President Obama has rejected all of those options. Administration officials, at least now, telling the AP that Mr. Obama wants a strategy that makes it clear that the U.S. commitment to Afghanistan is not open-ended. According to the AP, President Obama will most likely announce his new Afghanistan war strategy shortly after he returns from a trip to Asia on November 19th. Joining us now by phone is Ann Guerin. She's national security writer for the Associated Press, who reported this news tonight. Ann Guerin, thanks very much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
I'm pleased to be with you.
When you reported tonight that the president is looking for a way to make clear that the U.S. commitment in Afghanistan is not open-ended, can you tell us any more about what that might mean he's looking for? Is that a specific end date by which troops would leave?
Well, my colleague Ben Feller and I reported this tonight, and he really deserves credit here too. We don't know exactly what the threat is, if there is one, that the White House is holding over Afghanistan and its leaders. But it's clear that the president didn't like any of the military options he was presented. That's been true for a while. He's asked for those options to be reworked a couple of times, and he wants to see something else that probably incorporates, troop numbers, but also a difference in strategy before he goes ahead.
The Washington Post had broke news tonight, Ms. Guerin, that Carl Eikenberry, the U.S. ambassador in Afghanistan, who, of course, until recently was a U.S. troop commander, a general in Afghanistan, had been urgently cabling Washington, D.C., at least on 2 occasions recently, saying, please don't send more troops right now. Afghan corruption at the governmental level is too much of a complication for the U.S. to be increasing its military footprint. One detail, though, in that story was that the Washington Post said that all of the options that were being considered by President Obama, all of the options on the table, were to increase troop numbers.
That's right.
That's right.
The options, the 4 that were going into today's meeting, all involved some form of troop increases, as we were told ahead of time by military and other officials. The Eikenberry objections came as a bit of came out of the blue to a lot of officials who had been proceeding on the assumption that today's meeting would be basically the end. I mean, the president would see the options which he himself had asked for in one form or another, and pick A, B, C, or D. And Eikenberry was a latecomer to this process, at least in the form of these very sternly worded classified cables, which we were able to confirm tonight as well. And Eikenberry is a very important figure here. I mean, he's someone who has both the long military experience in Afghanistan and the fairly recent diplomatic experience, and he's been a participant in these meetings by video, as has the war commander in Afghanistan, Stanley McChrystal. It's not at all clear whether the president's rejection of the options he was presented today had anything to do with the Eikenberry cables, but they all did come in roughly at the same time over the last several days.
It's been a dramatic evening of news as all of this information has become available to us. On the issue of the options that have been made available to the president, that again, you're reporting, you and Ben Feller from the Associated Press tonight reporting the president has rejected. It seems to me that the closer you get to real expertise on this conflict in Afghanistan among American experts, American veterans, people who have been there, the more likely the person you're talking to is to emphasize that troop numbers themselves are not strategic, that there are strategic issues that the president needs to decide above and beyond how many troops are there. Are you able to tell us anything about what the different strategic decisions the president, the strategic options the president has been given to choose between?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, troop numbers are really only a way to measure what you're going to do over and above that, and they've become the metric by which the story is measured, and certainly the thing that Washington has focused most on. But the White House has said all along that they were more focused on getting the wider strategy right, and they would figure out how many troops it took, if any, additional to get it done there. The latest strategic shifts seem very closely related to the outcome of the Afghan election or non-election. The elevation of Karzai without a second round has, on one hand, been a boon to Western officials who basically wanted to get on with it and figure out who it was they were going to be dealing with and start to get the government together and figure out their next move before winter set in and before the Taliban had a lot of chance to regroup and before a lot of other bad things could have happened. So it did short-circuit a potentially long period of delay. But on the other hand, it has produced a very uncertain landscape for Obama and certainly for the NATO allies and for someone like Eikenberry sitting there in Kabul and being the U.S. face on the ground talking to Karzai. Some of the things that Karzai has said and done in recent days have greatly irritated, if not more, U.S. officials who think he's not showing much sign that he's going to clean house and walk a straight line. So there's relatively little leverage that the U.S. has other than its presence, which is most easily measured by troops. But that's going to, what the president does from here is going to be in some way formed on what he wants to see happen with Karzai.
Ann Guerin, reporter for the Associated Press, who joins the byline with Ben Feller tonight on today's breaking news from the Associated Press on Afghanistan. Thanks very much for joining us on such short notice. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Again, the breaking news tonight from the Associated Press, President Obama not planning to accept any of the Afghanistan war options that have been presented to him by his national security team, pushing instead, in the AP's words, for revisions to clarify how and when U.S. troops would turn over responsibility to the Afghan government. President Obama wanting to make clear that the U.S. commitment in Afghanistan is not open-ended. There's been so much speculation about what's going to happen with not only the U.S. war in Afghanistan, but the Washington, D.C.-based decision-making process for what's going to happen. That decision-making process just blown wide open tonight with this breaking news.